It doesn't matter what year you are. I'm head of the associates. If I give you an assignment, you do it.
Hey everybody, this is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous good-looking friends. I have been a busy little bee putting together this video for you. Like many, I too was perplexed on what has been going on with this circus we are seeing in the UK with Harry. So what is this all about? I decided to take it upon myself to learn more because there's just too much noise out there in the media, as well as what other people have been sharing or saying and clouding judgment across the board. I believe the way that this is unfolding has been done all by design. I believe that Harry is bringing attention to this case, but not in the way that many people are now speculating. I will explain that in this video, but first, let's take a moment to understand what the actual case is all about. Back in October 2022, news was released that Harry, along with 7 others, filed a lawsuit with A&L accusing the Daily Mail, Mail Online, and Mail on Sunday of gross breaches in privacy. They are alleging that the company committed serious invasion of privacy over several years, in which they cite the invasive ways of gathering information, such as hiring private investigators, commissioning individuals to surreptitiously listen into recorded people's live private telephone calls, payments of police officials, and corruption, impersonating people to get medical records and information, as well as accessing bank accounts and credit histories. I mean, seriously, this stuff is criminal. So this lawsuit is the first lawsuit against the Daily Mail, Mail Online, Mail on Sunday, being connected now to the UK phone hacking scandal that broke in 2011, and the scandal that has been plaguing this media conglomerate till to this day. So let's all take a moment and get on the same page to review at high level the catalyst for this case, beginning with understanding the Rupert Murdoch empire. So Rupert Murdoch, who was born in Australia, owns newspapers, film companies, entertainment companies, distribution chains, making up this massive media empire in which it's practically a monopoly globally outside of the US. This type of media ownership causes a lot of problems because of being able to dominate an entire media landscape in news, entertainment, film, and the distribution channels. In a way, it's similar to the way China and Russia take over what they want their people to see and believe. By design, this type of sensationalized, fear-driven, shock value media turns into profit. But it also gives control in which celebrities, politicians, and regular people like you and I could be destroyed if the press turns on you. So now let's talk about how this scandal unfolded. In the year 2000, Rebecca Brooks is appointed editor of Britain's best-selling Sunday tabloid News of the World. In 2002, teenager Millie Dowler disappears in Walton in March. Her remains are then found in September. This death will come back up later in 2011. But going back to this timeline, Rupert Murdoch's protege, Rebecca Brooks, becomes editor of daily tabloid The Sun, which is the sister paper to the News of the World in the year 2003. Okay, so now here is where the royals enter into the fold. So in November of 2005, News of the World publishes a story on Prince William's knee injury, in which it does prompt complaints by royal staff members about voicemail messages being intercepted. The complaints spark a police inquiry. So then in January 2007, the News of the World's royal affairs editor at the time, Clive Goodman, is then put in jail for 4 months because Goodman listened to voicemail messages left for the press secretary of Prince Charles and also for 2 royal aides who worked for Prince William and Prince Harry. The accomplice was the private investigator, Glenn Mulcair. So both these guys admitted in November of 2006 to plotting to unlawfully intercept communications, while Mulcair also pleaded guilty to 5 other charges of unlawfully intercepting voicemail messages. So now here's where it starts to get murky and shady. So after those 2 men were sentenced, Andy Coulson, who was the world editor, decided to resign, saying that he took ultimate responsibility. But then in May 2007 of that year, Andy Coulson becomes the Conservative Party's Director of Communications under leader David Cameron. So then in June of 2009, Rebecca Brooks becomes CEO of News International. The Guardian newspaper then says News of the World reporters, with the knowledge of senior staff, had illegally accessed messages from the mobile phones of celebrities and politicians, while Andy Coulson was the editor. Now let's remember that Andy Coulson now was in the cabinet under David Cameron, heading up its communications. So when Les Hinton, chief executive of Dow Jones and previously the executive chairman of Murdoch's newspaper arm in Britain, tells a committee of legislators any problems with phone hacking was limited to one already well-publicized case, reiterating what he told the committee in 2007. He said they had carried out a wide review and found no new evidence. Suspect, right? So now you're starting to understand the overlap in the gray relationships with the UK government and its politicians at the time. As a result of a whistleblower coming forward, pressure for a new investigation grew after the New York Times had suggested News of the World reporters routinely sought to hack phones, often with the help of private investigators. So now here's where it comes to a head. So then in January of 2011, British police open a new investigation into the allegations of phone hacking at the News of the World tabloid. Police had said back in July of 2009 there was no need for a probe into the hacking claims. So now it starts to all unravel quickly, and Andy Coulson resigns as Cameron's communications chief amid the allegations of phone hacking. Then in April of 2011, same year, the News of the World admits its role in the phone hacking. Finally, that same year, Millie Dowler's family found out from police that the schoolgirl's voicemail messages had been hacked and were one of the first ones to be hacked. So this sets off a whole chain of events in which material related to emails appearing to show payments were made to police and Scotland Yard for information that were authorized by Andy Coulson. So public pressure was being forced onto David Cameron for public inquiry because news of this had now gone global, and the United States now have the FBI investigating to see if Murdoch's news entities here in the United States were also following the same practices of hacking and getting information illegally. So this now prompts David Cameron to take action in which he promises new regulatory rules for the British press and called for a public inquiry into what went wrong over a decade at the News of the World. Essentially, he was in cover your ass mode. And now the situation becomes hyper-politicized, so Cameron then gives details of a formal public inquiry into the affair to be chaired by senior judge Brian Levison. Now, this name has been floating around the last couple days, and what that was this inquiry. The resulting 2,000-page report published a year later was a thunderous censure of press recklessness in prioritizing sensational stories, almost irrespective of the harm the stories may cause and the rights of those who would be affected. This Levison report forced the closure of News of the World, and that was a small victory for Prince Harry and Chelsea Davy because of how invasive and intrusive this hacking was on their lives and their relationship. It was like the major reason for why they broke up, because Chelsea couldn't handle the constant having to look over her shoulders and being stalked and followed and tracked. I mean, at the time, they didn't know that they were being hacked, but the press that intruded their space rightfully made them paranoid, and she just didn't want to live like that. So ultimately, she broke up with Harry. Now, I've thought about this over the last 24 hours and realized that Harry does have animosity for the British press, but I don't think it's so much blaming them for his mother's death, because it has been proven that it wasn't a result of the paparazzi. It was a result of the driver being drunk and Diana not wearing her seatbelt. I think it was a result of the press causing this breakup. And I think that resentment of losing the girl that he wanted to be with is still festering. Hence the reason why we come to present day and him pursuing this further. And to a certain degree, I understand why Harry is trying to draw a lot of attention, because when these criminals were put on trial, like Rebecca Brooks, she was cleared of everything. Nothing happened to Rupert Murdoch, even though everyone was in on it, and nothing happened because he was a powerful man and still is a powerful man. I think the level of injustice and anger that the victims felt still resonates today, and that's why it's still relevant. Harry knows how to use this situation to his own advantage. He is motivated because he has a personal vendetta against Rupert Murdoch. So while he may not admit that this man and his media empire caused the downfall of his relationship, of the one true love he had, he's also now going to use it to benefit himself and the wife. I'm convinced that everything that we have seen so far this year was carefully crafted and planned by the puppet master, Meghan Markle. So think about this. This is the first lawsuit against Daily Mail, Mail on Sunday, that is being tied to this phone hacking scandal. That would be Meghan Markle, because they were the ones that published the letter from Thomas Markle. Also, let's not forget all those beautiful headlines calling her out for being difficult, for being a liar, pretty much showing the world exactly who she was. So obviously, there is a personal vendetta. Let's not forget also that Harry has another lawsuit ongoing with the Daily Mail because of them publishing that article exposing him for lying about the security to get back at this particular entity of the media. Many of you have been asking, me too, why now? Why is it that Harry is now bringing this subject back up and latching himself onto this libel case with all these other celebrities? In my opinion, there's a few things going on here that are driving forces. One, definitely motivated by money. Two, it's also going to help Meghan and Harry's security IPP case. And lastly, you have strength in numbers. So the 6 other people that are filing for gross misconduct of this entity most likely will have some validation or some truth to what they're putting forward. And when you're looking at a conglomerate that is worth billions of dollars, think about what that type of settlement or what the punitive damages would be surrounding a case like this. It's a lot of money. We all know that Meghan and Harry, specifically Meghan, is quite anal retentive, and she likes to carefully curate, plan, scheme, strategize, and choreograph everything to a T. So this situation with Harry showing up to the courts by himself, full court press, all of that has been planned and has been in the works before this was announced last October. I believe that conversations and strategic planning began in 2020 when Meghan started to go off on A&L for publishing her stupid letter, and then also Harry and Meghan losing their security. A key element to this are the advisors from Hollywood that had been guiding this couple on what they should be doing from a business perspective, from a brand perspective, as well as a political perspective. So now let's talk about the hotshot lawyer for Harry and to the uber rich and famous David Sherborne. Fun facts about David is that he represented dozens of claimants, including celebrities who were suing over this phone hacking scandal. Past clients included Diana, Princess of Wales, Hugh Grant, Michael Douglas, and most notable, Johnny Depp. Yes, Johnny Depp, who lost his case against the very same people that Harry is going up against. Before Johnny Depp lost his case, of course, Meghan Markle had David Sherborne on her team to fight against A&L. But after the crushing loss, Meghan ditched him because the optics didn't look too good that he was representing a wife beater. Keep in mind, we were in the height of this Me Too Time's Up bullshit movement. With that being said, I fully don't think that he was removed from the situation, probably working in the background in helping the case, in which they had Jennyafia be the face of what was representing Meghan Markle. There's no doubt in cases that are high profile like this, PR teams and legal teams have to work together in order to issue effective communication because the court of public opinion on a subconscious level matters. It's why sometimes we scratch our head at some of the bizarre things that Meghan and Harry do, and when you look back, you realize it was all part of a plan. This case is no different. And why this is so obvious to me is because Hollywood is not that big. The people that were advising Amber Heard, as well as the people that had been advising Meghan Markle and Harry, all overlap, from the lawyers to the business managers to the agents to the PR companies. They are all figuratively and literally in bed with one another. Now, I don't think it was a coincidence that the BBC puts out a documentary called The Princes and the Press around the same time Amber versus Johnny gets pushed out on Discovery Plus. For Meghan and Harry, this BBC documentary started to seed the narrative of Harry missing out on his teen years. Now, both of these propaganda pieces followed a very similar format, but heavily biased towards one side giving away its purpose as being just that, propaganda. What I find convenient is the participation by Jennyafia and David Sherborne in these documentaries. Jennyafia was in both of these documentaries defending their client. Now, in both documentaries, we had the biased journalists that were favoring both Amber Heard and Meghan and Harry. The attempt to appear even-handed featured journalists who had neutral positions. Just as Meghan had Christopher Boozy in the Netflix narrative, Christopher Boozy also popped up in the Discovery Plus documentary. So
we were contacted to look at activity on Twitter, and we were able to determine close to 6,000 fake or inauthentic accounts that were targeting Miss Heard, Amber Heard.
You have to look at all the similarities. So when we say, well, why did Harry go through the front door? Well, I'm sure his legal counsel told him to do that, as they did with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp walked through the front door, so he was visible, while Amber Heard went through the side door. So now that you see the similarities, let's now focus on this BBC documentary and the convenience of it all, starting with the presenter Amal Rajan. This Republican anti-monarchist has been very vocal in the past about not liking Prince Philip and King Charles. He's also very good friends with Misha Nunu, which is Meghan's bestie. He's also admitted in this very same documentary that he has also struck deals for stories.
Let's call this the deal. Look, journalists are always doing unspoken deals with people. I worked in newspapers for the best part of a decade. I cut a few deals myself.
Is it possible that a deal was struck here for this documentary with the Sussexes? Highly likely. No one suspected at the time that this BBC propaganda was going to be serving a purpose in this court case that we're seeing today. We all just thought that the BBC really hated the royal family and was taking out their wokeness onto them in this documentary. What's also quite convenient is Gavin Burroughs, the private investigator who is now coming to light and center stage in the recent hearings this week, was featured in this BBC documentary. And this was the first time we started to hear this, oh, Harry missed out on his teenage years because of what they were doing.
Because I basically was part of a group of people that robbed him of his normal teenage years.
Do I think it's a coincidence that he is sitting there today? No, this was all part of the plan. And right after the documentary dropped, Gavin Burroughs finally gets on Twitter and starts tweeting. What we find out is that this guy has been working for Meghan and Harry. The question is, for how long? You know, when you think about all the hacking that has happened to the folks who did speak out against Meghan and Harry, telling the truth, they suddenly were either doxxed, canceled, information thrown online. So you have to wonder, have they been working with this man for a while? And is this part of the plan? Remember, this is a guy who admitted to being ruthless because of the money.
My actions were ruthless, but they were, and I'm not making an excuse, but they were ruthless because I was greedy.
Why in the world would Harry want to be associated with this guy, knowing that he made his life, his teenage years, a living hell because of the intrusion and the invasive practices that were borderline criminal? I'm just throwing that out there. It doesn't make any sense to me, especially since he can't even forgive his own family for stuff that gave him such a privileged life filled with opportunity. And I really hate to sound cynical about all of this. I want to believe Gavin Burroughs is sorry and remorseful for what he did in this hacking and invasion of privacy to Chelsea and even Harry, because that sounded like a complete nightmare. And in that respect, if he is sorry, then I think that that is commendable. But it is so hard to take it at face value because of the people that we're dealing with. And you have to think to yourself, well, why didn't he come out before? I mean, so many years have passed. Why didn't his conscience come forward earlier?
You look back on what you did,
Yeah.
specifically on the princes. How does it make you feel?
Bad. Oh, I'm very sorry. I am very sorry, because
The biggest red flag that I see is, when you type in Gavin Burroughs' name, the first thing that comes up is his business. And in his business, as you can see, it says line of inquiry, Gavin Burroughs, Prince Harry, private investigator. In my mind, I'm thinking, why would you advertise that? Well, the only thing that comes to my mind is for self-promotion. Also, the other major red flag and alarm bells going off right now is, why does Harry have a private investigator? Whose information or whose privacy is he trying to invade now? Like, isn't this like the pot calling the kettle black? This is something that people should be aware about. Now, in my opinion, when you go into the website, and I don't recommend that you do so, if you do, clear your cache once you're done with that. It does talk about the British royal family, and let me read what it says. This is not a misrepresentation. This is exactly what is said on the website. There have been many world-class successes, including when Gavin Burroughs worked for the British royal family and senior police infiltrating a group who, posing as staff at a polo match, planned to steal DNA from HRH Prince Harry. Prince Charles and Prince William were also attending, liaising directly with senior police and Prince Charles' private secretary. Burroughs thwarted the plot successfully. So is he saying that he had been working with the royals? It kind of sounds like it. Anyhow, if you scroll down to the bottom, I find this actually quite threatening. In bold lettering, it says verbatim, "We prosecute fake reviews and any third parties who copy, clone, or in any way copy any content on this website or act in bogus websites and or any other type of outlet as Gavin Burroughs' line of inquiry, LOI." It then says, "We know how to legally trace emails, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram posts and comments, trace email, and chat box inquiries." I mean, is that really necessary? I mean, I guess if people are being trolls, then I can understand that. But just for somebody who's visiting the website and you're reading that and you're like, whoa, dude, calm down. Now, it's also quite bizarre that a private investigator is disclosing to the world on a public domain they worked for the British royal family. I would think that there is a certain level of confidentiality, but that's just me thinking out loud. I really would like to give Gavin Burroughs the benefit of the doubt, but it's really hard. So he does say here that he agreed to do the BBC interview because he felt the time was right to shine a light on what actually happened. The other concern that I do have is he's following a whole bunch of Sussex Squad sugars. So could he possibly be a paid Uber sugar? Maybe. I just struggle with him wanting to apologize and do the right thing when the people that he's following and surrounding with are guilty of themselves for stalking, harassing, also injecting fear. All of them that you see here that he's following are guilty of smearing the royal family, especially William and Catherine. And we must remember that Meghan and Harry prey on people's emotions and those that are empathetic and caring and forgiving in order to manipulate the situation to get what they want. Hence the reason why I am very cautious around believing anything that this guy says and his intentions towards what he's doing with Meghan and Harry. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this is all going to play out. But right now, my gut tells me that everything that Meghan and Harry have been doing has all been part of building this narrative to get this important status back. As I was perusing through Gavin Burroughs' tweets, for the most part, it's all about security and why they need security. So now when you think about the strange things that we found in Spare, as well as the titles being given to the children, or not even the titles, them announcing this right now, as opposed to announcing it 6 months ago. And then on top of it, this tweet, as I see here, and this court case, and the other court case, you realize that this is all that is now being pushed, is this emphasis on this security. What caught my attention is this tweet by Gavin Burroughs, the second one here, indicating that for 4 years, almost $100 million is going to be what security is going to cost to protect this family. You know, you're looking at, if they get the status back, that's over 20-something million dollars a year in taxpayer money that's going to have to go to protecting this couple here in the United States. That's not going to be good for any of us, and it will infuriate many. But what I am concerned with is the political side and aspect of the UK court system, in where we've seen these justices not do the right thing. And that is a concern. They did it with Meghan Markle. They did it with supporting not Johnny Depp, but they supported the son and Amber Heard. I am just concerned that this PR propaganda, in the way that Amber Heard did, in the way that Meghan Markle did, is now going to take effect and be applied to this situation. But what do you guys think? That's all I got for today. As always, I will be back with more content. But in the meantime, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I was such a fraud.